each other. Larry has personally visited every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. So happy you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. The number to call if you want to talk to me after the first break, 585-346-3000. Boy, oh boy, did I tell you so. How often did I tell you so? Let me count the ways. Let me, if I could, bring up an idea that I have spoken about in the past when it comes to business. When it comes to business, when I talk to leaders about problems and how to solve them, very often I bring up a distinction between responsibility and blame. You might say, Larry, they're the same thing. They're not. If you are a leader, it may be someone else's fault that something went wrong. It's possible. Maybe one of the people you're working with, maybe a vendor, maybe one of your juniors. In any case, something might have gone wrong. Maybe your boss made a mistake. Who knows? Your senior might have made a mistake. Could be their fault. But you're the leader. You have to fix it. You must fix it. So it is your responsibility to repair it. It is your responsibility to make sure things go well, even if it isn't your fault. So you can blame anybody you want. If that makes you feel good, awesome. Go blame. But whose responsibility is it? Michael Larry, does that really matter? It does. It matters even when you're setting goals. What do I mean by that? I have a team of people, and I say, all right, you team, here's the company goals. Go achieve them. And then people go, oh, all right, whatever. I guess that's your goals, not mine. I'll do what I can. And when we fail to reach the goals, the team goes, well, that was your goal, not mine. You gave us bad goals. It's your fault, not mine. I did what you said. You said go out and do X. I went and did X. We didn't get the goals. That's your fault, not mine. Your goals. I'm still getting paid. That's how the employee thinks. That's how the employee thinks. I get it. But what if instead you made the employee also responsible? Hey, how are we going to fix this? This is your job, but your goal and mine. We are now together on this. Another person goes, wait a minute. Maybe I'm responsible too. Yes. And you will find the person care more, try to talk to you about real goals. And if they don't make it, they'll chat back and forth. Yes. That's the issue. Now, why do I bring this up? Because as you probably know, a bridge recently fell down, collapsed in Baltimore. Who knows how many people are injured? Number could be anywhere from 7 to 20 people injured. Who knows? We'll find out. But it collapsed. Oh my God, Larry. Yeah, well, actually, we average a major bridge collapsing in America every year. Average about one a year. When you count smaller bridges, there are dozens that collapse every year across America. So lots of them do collapse. It happens. How many of those bridges are run by the government of those that collapsed? University of Utah did an actual study on this. They studied 503 bridge collapses, 503 of them. How many were run by the government? All of them. Everyone. They go, Larry, are there that many privately owned bridges? There are. About 1 to 2% of the bridges are privately owned. So that means there should be about 7 to 10 of those bridges that collapsed should be private businesses. None. Not one. Why? Because the responsibility for bridges right now is on government. What happens when government's wrong? Nothing. Nothing. There is someone to blame and no responsibility. Nothing. What if it's a private company? punishment. How do I know that? Think about Exxon Valdez. How about that? Had a private company's name on it. Had to pay. The BP oil spill. Had to pay. Something had to happen. And many of you got mad at me when I said, hey, why don't we lease out naming rights to bridges so that these bridges would be, the maintenance would be responsible by a private organization like Google or 3M or Kellogg's or whatever, Procter & Gamble, who cares? That they would pay us to put their name on the bridge. And people say, oh, that's terrible. That's capitalism. It's bad. I don't want to see that. But you want to see a bridge fall and people die and middle class and working class people lose their lives, their livelihoods, their property, and now they can't get to work. I'm not joking. Think the wealthy were affected by this? Of course not. They weren't affected by this. The middle class, the working class, they're affected by this. But imagine that bridge wasn't the Scott Key Bridge, Frank Scott Key Bridge, but instead it was the 3M Bridge, the YouTube Bridge, the Google Bridge, the Facebook Bridge, whatever, the Instagram Bridge, whatever. That becomes Exxon Valdez. They don't want that. You know some of the people who were on that bridge went into the cold water, to dark, cold water? Construction workers. That's true. That bridge was constructed by, owned by, maintained by government and failed. And what will happen? They will tell you, well, it was regulations and we got to regulate it more. Shipping and bridges in America are regulated already. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Maritime Commission, Department of Defense, Department of Commerce. They all have regulations on shipping and bridges. All of them, tons of regulations all over the place. And they all failed. So let me ask you, who will be fired because of this? Let's see, in the government, nobody. Nobody will be fired. Who will be punished in the government? Nobody. They might punish the captain of the ship, which that might be true. I don't know details. It might be the captain's fault. Don't know. One would assume that's true. Okay. I'm not against punishing the captain if he screwed up. Maybe he did. For those who don't know, the ship hit the bridge. So perhaps the captain's fault. No problem. But shouldn't we know that when a bridge, that when a bridge is struck by a boat that goes under this bridge all the time, that it won't just collapse? By the way, it's been hit more than once. So this isn't the first time. It isn't like they didn't know. Like the government said, oh my God, I can't believe that a boat hit the bridge. This is like the 6th time a boat hit the bridge. And at no point did I go, wait a minute. Should we maybe fix this bridge? Or maybe put up a barrier? Or maybe not let boats go through? Or something. Or something. Why would they? Whose responsibility is it? Nobody's. Some faceless organization that will have more regulations. It's nobody's responsibility. And what will happen? They will tax the local people more, people of Baltimore who are already screwed. They'll tax them more, or they'll do more bonds, or they'll have Uncle Joe write them a check. They'll do thoughts and prayers, and they'll start building that bridge. Now, if it was the 3M bridge, or it was the Google bridge, first that bridge probably wouldn't have fallen, because after the 3rd boat hit it, they would have been like, wait a minute, I don't want to pay for this bridge to go into the ocean, into the river, to the bay. No, we're going to fix this thing because that's what business people think. I don't want it to happen. We're going to fix it, and we're going to fix it fast. Government, whatever. I guess it's still within regulations, therefore it's fine. That's how government works. If the bridge actually did collapse, do you know how fast Exxon or 3M will be rebuilding that bridge? Immediately. There would be cleanup crews right now getting another bridge built. And it'll be told it will be at least 5 years before that bridge is built, maybe 10. At least 5 years, if not 10. And whatever the initial dollar sign comes up, it will be at least double that, guaranteed. If they say it's going to cost $1 billion, $2 billion at least, if not 3 or 4 billion, guaranteed. I promise you that. Why do I know that? because that's every single time. Every time. It's never not that. It will always take years longer. It will always be more of a grift. And who gets punished? The people who drive across that bridge. The working class, the middle class people who can't afford to fly from DC to New York or take the Acela. Right? That's what it is. Those people. And the people who will drive have drivers. So their driver will sit in the traffic in Baltimore while they sit in the back of their car and do their work or sleep or whatever they do. Make deals, whatever they do. So yet again, the ideas that I told you would have worked back in 2018. 6 years ago, I told you this. 6 years ago, I brought this up. Get rid of the maintenance, of the government maintenance of the bridges. Have the bridges controlled, still own it, lease out naming rights, and have private companies be responsible for maintenance. Let me say it again. 503 bridges studied by University of Utah. 0 owned by private companies. Not one. The bridges that collapse, where people die and livelihoods are destroyed, all government-run, government-owned bridges. This is the government's fault. And watch how they'll take no responsibility. They'll blame the captain or they'll blame the shipping or whatever. And they'll scream for more regulation. They'll scream, we need federal regulation. That'll stop it. Meanwhile, every year we average across the United States, America, 1 major bridge collapse every year. That's our average. Sometimes twice, sometimes nothing, but it averages once per year. When you add smaller ones, there are dozens a year, all collapsing in our country, which is supposed to be so great. Yeah. The more government, the more mediocrity. The more government, the less responsibility. This was fixable, and I told you how. And you laughed at me, and you thought I was silly. Now we have more pain for the working class and the middle class of this country again. And it won't stop because the lessons have not been learned. They still haven't been learned. Am I wrong? You can tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and your chat. I do see you, Internet. I see you after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the
we have a
tiniest
caller,
opening
Keith.
in your defenses to drain your accounts and
You're
steal
welcome.
sensitive data.
Yeah, Bob
Your
Savage and I
finances
both
and
were
your customers'
questioning,
trust are on
why
the line.
around those
Call
pillars
the
was there
experts
not
at Simple Tech Innovations
like a
now
large
at
round like
585-999
steel ring or some
Tech
kind
to
of,
secure your business
something
today.
that the
Don't
boat
wait
could
until
hit
it's
without
too late.
damaging
Make
it.
the
You know
call
what I mean?
today. 585-999 Tech.
It's just like low bridges that are often hit by trucks. Sometimes there's like a solid steel beam in front of the bridge that the truck hits before hitting the bridge. What a novel idea.
Elections are essential if we're going to restore our society
Like a
and safeguard our rights.
a famous bridge, I think it's in Durham. It's known as, well, it used to be the 11-foot-8 bridge. Now they raised it up to 11-foot 12-inch, I think, there were 625, or no, I'm sorry, 1110 now. I think it might be, but nevertheless, they did raise the bridge more. But it's amazing how many trucks still hit it. It's a popular YouTube channel, actually.
Examples of the urgent need for reform. You can help. Visit auditny.com and learn the facts.
Yeah, and if you remember, there was an Amtrak train that a barge hit the bridge, and then several people went into the water. Maybe you remember that.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Some of you online are mentioning that you can hear my engineer and I talk during the break. Yes, this is live on the radio. This is live on the web? Yes. And I'm not hiding anything. See, there we go. I want to grab a call if I could. Keith, how are you, sir?
You're not going to like me. You're too far-fetched on all of this. It was the ship that went into the bridge. You were making it sound in the beginning the bridge just collapsed. No. I was up, believe it or not, at 1:30, and 2 hours later they had on a special news program. They diagrammed in detail. I was even thinking maybe it was a Chinese crew on that Singapore flag large container ship. If the government was run right, meaning without Democrats, because I'm always criticizing government, the government proper would keep the bridges up. I don't care about the imbecile people in Baltimore. If they're inconvenienced, they keep voting in Democrats. So they're stupid. They keep voting for the same thing that never works. So I don't care about people in Baltimore. You don't want private companies. What's the incentive when it comes to pure capitalism for a company to take over a bridge? What do they get out of it? And so far as a company like Google, everyone listen, if we're going to have the election actually stolen in November, Google is going to lead the charge. Google works.
All right, hold on. You give me too much, Keith. You give me too much. Let me grab a couple of these one at a time. First one I'm going to grab is you're right. Is no doubt it was probably the captain's fault. I mean, maybe not, but the odds are it was the captain's fault. He rammed into the bridge. But my point is, it isn't the first time. That bridge has been struck by ships more than once. So they knew that was a thing. They know that boats strike that bridge. Whether that's the captain's fault or whatever, that's what happens. So why didn't they fix it? That is my point. Why didn't they put up a barrier? Why didn't they put some kind of a way lights or something? Whatever is the answer. I don't know what the answer is. I don't fix bridges. But I know there is an answer. The problem is the government doesn't have to. What incentive, to your second question, would a private company have as capitalist? That's a great question. If these people have what I said, which is they don't own the bridge, they lease naming rights. When you lease naming rights, if you don't do what the contract says, you lose the contract. As long as you front load the payments, if they don't do anything at a certain time, you still make your money, they lose the contract. It is no longer the Google bridge or the 3M bridge. It's now whoever else wants to pay for it. Part of the contract is they control maintenance. Let me ask you right now, this is the Francis Scott Key Bridge that collapsed. Imagine if it was the Google bridge. This is what exactly their issue. If it was the Google bridge, right now, everyone be saying, Google dropped the ball. Google let those people die. Google let 20 people die. Google let this happen. That's what we'll be saying now, and we'll be crushing Google right now. They would be losing so much money. Their CEO might get, booted. Who knows what could happen? Their board would be jumping through hoops. There would be some repercussions, and they would have to fix it now. How do I know that? That's what's happened every time private companies get hammered. They have to fix it now. That is the incentive they have. Did I at least answer your question?
I'd be spitting nickels if I had to drive over a bridge named Google. Google is the one who's going to steal the election. And before you let me go here, let's look at New York State with the squatters and how the judicial system across our country has been tainted and compromised. My final comment, we lose a country when the judicial system becomes corrupt. You mentioned a private company. Look how Trump rebuilt that ice rink. To this day, does the Donald get any credit for rebuilding that ice rink in Manhattan? No, of course not. They all hate him. So talk about getting rid of the squatters. Squatters have more rights. They're telling hellish stories across the country about squatters going in and taking away people's property.
I got some squatter stuff for later, Keith. You got too much. I will try to get squatters afterwards if I can. I will try to get that, but I got more things I got to jump on.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Keith. Keith's got some points, but I think that still, okay, if we don't want to give it to Google, we can give it to 3M. We can give it to Kellogg's. I don't care. Someone's paying for it, and people aren't dying and falling into the lake, into the ocean, into the bay, whatever the case may be. I just don't want people falling into the ocean, falling into the bay. That's what I don't want to happen. That's the issue. So maybe they might actually think about doing that here. Now, I'm going to go to one step further, and that's back to New York City. New York City, something recently interesting has happened. New York City is now sending 800 officers into the subways. You might go, Larry, that's a good idea. There's violence in New York City subways. I'm glad they're sending 800 officers in. Well, you might think that, but you would be wrong. They're sending them in, I'm not joking, to literally stop fare beating. Yes, 800 officers to stop fare beating. This is an actual quote from the Deputy Commissioner of the NYPD. Transit safety starts with addressing theft of service. I'm not making that up. That is an actual quote. Transit safety starts with addressing theft of service, not with stopping people from being stabbed to death. We had multiple stabbings in the subways these last couple of days. Multiple. Not like one, like many of them. And we had shootings. And outside on the street, they shot a cop and killed a cop this weekend. That's New York City. So the number one thing you got to worry about, of course, is people not paying the fees. You know what matters most in New York City? People are getting stabbed and dying. Number one thing, I'm not getting my cut. That's what New York City just said. Right? That's what New York City just said. I need my cut. I'm not protecting you people till I get my cut. Then maybe I'll think about protecting you. That's New York City. Now, Kathy Hochul decided, wait a minute. Maybe, I thought she was going to listen to me. She was like, wait a minute, maybe I should pull out all these National Guards, pull them out, rethink this, do something different. And then the NYPD said, but what about our cut? We got to get cash. She went, oh, no, just kidding. No. I'm going to keep them in there. You go stop people from jumping the fares. That's the answer. It's embarrassingly bad. Now, again, you might go, Larry, how does this link with the first thing you said? Because, again, back in 2018, what did I say? I said, stop with these crazy fare hikes. Stop with changing how we pay and all those things. Stop that. Instead, at night, why don't we allow, again, you're going to hear it, private companies. I know the evil libertarian has actually private company answers that will solve things. Let private companies bring cargo into New York City via the subway. Now, of course, the response I get is, Larry, different tracks, they have to rebuild things. Yes, our subway system is over 100 years old. It's a disaster. They would have to rebuild it. Larry, that would cost billions. Yeah, and Google, which Keith hates, has a marketing budget of multiple billions, just the marketing budget. So does Amazon. So does Home Depot. All these companies have billions of dollars that they spend every year just in marketing. Well, don't spend it in marketing. Rebuild my MTA. We'll name a line after you. Larry, that's terrible. I don't want a Home Depot line. Do you want to be stabbed in the MTA? No, then shut up and take a Home Depot. Stop. Stop with your virtue signaling garbage. We're just going to keep putting more cops. We're going to turn New York State into a police state. You're okay with that. You're okay with New York City being a goddamn police state. But you don't want to have Home Depot on your subway station. What is wrong with you? Do you have a mental disorder? What's wrong with you? They're shooting cops and stabbing people to death on the subways. My idea 6 years ago would have ended this. Why? You think the Home Depot line, the Amazon line is going to be okay with violence and stabbings? No. That's their property going through there. They would fix it. Yet again, I told you so. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL, Rochester, New York. Back with your calls and your chat after break.
After we had Keith, I mentioned we had Dan on the line. I don't know if you didn't hear me. No. So he's going to hang on to the end of the break. Nope. No problem. I told me you were kind of on a roll anyway.
Welcome, Olean. WYSL. Proud to be your local talk station for great conservative, all-American programming.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see a couple of showers out there, breezy, staying mild in the 40s. On Wednesday, mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures will be near 60, then fall back late in the day. There could be a shower or two, but most of the time dry, still a bit breezy. Expect some sunshine on Thursday in the 40s and low 50s. And for Friday, some sunshine in the 40s. I'm Rich Cadilia, WYSL.
Spring is in the air. Time to plan to enhance your outdoor spaces for the warmer weather. The builders at Springwater Amish Workshop tell us they have in stock most popular colors of material. Order your poly yard furniture done in your favorite shade to make sure it's in your yard for the first picnic of the season. The poly builders say if you order right now, the tables can be here in 2 weeks. Check out the in-stock picnic tables and benches made from yellow pressure-treated pine. Attractive, whether in the backyard, at the campsite, or at your summer place. A picnic pavilion or gazebo will enhance your outdoor recreational spaces. Springwater Amish Workshop buildings are the best built in the movable shed business. All buildings have a 30-year warranty, and the price includes free delivery within a 40-mile radius of Springwater. Get a 3% discount when you pay by check, or you can rent to own. Baby chick time is here. Order your chicken coop now to be ready. Drive down to Springwater Amish Workshop, 7936 Mill Street, Route 15, Springwater. You'll be happy.
Okay, so after Dan, we'll have another caller, Mike.
FM Talk.
When you wrap up with Dan, just wait until I talk back to you and confirm Mike's on. Thanks. Yeah, the Amtrak train that went into the water, I think that was quite a while ago. I couldn't find anything on the web. I just remember seeing a documentary on TV where a barge apparently
with the brand new 2024 Chevy Silverado Crew Cab,
and they went on the wrong part of the canal that they shouldn't have.
Right now, you can lease your own brand new Silverado Crew Cab for just $348 a month with zero down. Just sign and drive. For details, call 1-800-503-9025.
So Glenn Beckhead, I don't know if you picked up on this, but apparently the barge lost power and the Mayday was sent, and they did stop traffic at the last minute.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The latest advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks easier than ever before. Cyber criminals are relentlessly targeting your business right now, seeking the tiniest opening in your defenses to drain your accounts and steal sensitive data. Your finances and your customers' trust are on the line. Call the experts at Simple Tech Innovations now at 585-999-TECH to secure your business today. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call today. 585-999-TECH.
Geneseo Hardware and Rental has all your project needs, from inside to outside, underground or in the air. Newly expanded inventory, lawn, garden, paint, home goods, plus a wide range of rental items. Geneseo Hardware offers screen and window repair. Voted best hardware store in Livingston County. Open daily, including Sundays. Geneseo Hardware and Rental. Route 28 next to Wegmans Plaza, just minutes from Canisius Lake.
Baskin Livestock's success in recycling food waste into animal feed comes from a focus on growth and a belief that there's value in what others are tempted to discard. Their bank feels the same. While other financial institutions cycle through business relationships, Tompkins Bank knows the best things are worth preserving and lead to long-term growth. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Find out more at tompkinsbank.com.
Just in time for warmer weather, All Seasons Wine and Spirits in Avon has the latest varieties of seltzers and ciders. White Claw, High Noon, Three Brothers, Sunny D Vodka, Malibu cocktails, and more. Great for parties or taking a cooler on the go. Mention WYSL, buy 3 or more packs, and save 5%. All Seasons is open daily, including Sunday 10 to 6. Voted best liquor store in Livingston County 2 years in a row. All Seasons Wine and Spirits, East Main Street, Avon.
WYSL. The all-new WYSL1040.com. Proudly brought to you by Batavia Downs.
Batavia Downs with more, lots more.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
It is Larry Sharpe, WYSL, Rochester, New York, Sharpe Way Radio. So happy you're giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I was in a rant a little bit last time. Someone teased me thinking I was doing an impression of Keith. I was not. I was just doing an impression of a mad guy. If you think that's Keith, I guess he was kind of mad. So you could see that, I guess. But that was not an impression of Keith. I don't think Keith has ever mentioned New York City subways in that regard. So it was not his impression of him. It was a mad guy. Keith was mad. So I can see how you could see that. I want to grab another call if I could. I'm going to grab Dan. Dan, how are you, sir?
Excellent. How you doing, Larry?
What's going on?
Couple different experiences I've had with regards to, one is the Exxon Valdez you mentioned a number of times.
Yep.
The governor of Alaska at the time had been my lawyer before he became governor.
Whoa.
And he was totally an ego-driven character. Valdez at the time was well known to be a major party town, and these captains of these different oil tankers were well known to be drinkers. And Hazelwood, who was the captain of the Exxon Valdez, left the bridge and went to pass out because it was in the hands of the pilot, who was the guy that shipped it out to open sea.
Right.
And that's basically what happened with the bridge into Baltimore.
Same idea.
The pilot was in control. I don't know where the captain was, but it all boils down to the captain's responsibility.
Agreed. Yes.
Another is just locally. A few years ago, a guy was walking along the road with his young daughter, like 11 years old, and she nearly fell into a hole in the middle of the road.
Wow.
From a culvert that had deteriorated going under the road.
Where is this?
And this was in Bergen.
Oh, Bergen. Okay, yeah, I got it.
And the county superintendent at the time, his retort to criticism of the situation was, well, what are we supposed to do? Crawl into every little culvert and look at them? Well, with a camera, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
to check those things out. So I mean, it's just the ego, and it screams for term limits in my mind.
Yes.
So that there's not the chummy relationship between the people that are under the politicians and the politicians who are the representatives of the people.
Absolutely.
Those are my points.
Thank you, my friend Dan. I appreciate it. And let me touch a couple if I can. I think you're right that this is ultimately, I assume, right? Unless something crazy happened, I assume that the captain is in charge, their responsibility. I agree with you. I think that's true. That doesn't mean that the bridge couldn't have been safer, that we could have done something to make that happen, if we know that's going to happen. So that's my piece there. When it comes to Bergen, yeah, you're supposed to make the street safe, or you could also have the streets be maintained. Also, and we have that already. It's called Adopt a Highway. Private companies clean it. Why can't they maintain them? You can do both. Again, there is a privatized answer if you want to look for it. A non-monopoly answer if you want to look for it. I'll grab another call if I could. I'm going to grab Mike. Mike, how are you, sir?
Larry, hey, speaking of my favorite cesspool, New York City. All that's going on in New York City is a club and picnic. Okay, New York State changes all of its laws, leaves all these criminals out. on bail reform. So if they commit a crime, they get written an appearance ticket and they turn back around.
Yes.
Okay. And the Queen flooding the subways with all the police and everything. Okay. That's her way of showing that she's supposedly in control. She's not in control.
Yes.
The National Guard that were down there were doing nothing but swiping bags and looking in the bags and wiping them down for explosives. They were doing nothing. And
let me touch that piece for 1 second, Mike. I actually said this when this first happened. I said on record, I said she will do this and go about a month and there'll be no change in violence whatsoever. It will do nothing but spend money. And I'm correct yet again. There was another spike in violence. So now if the criminals know you're going to check the bag, they don't keep the weapon in the bag. They keep the weapon in their sock or in their belt or whatever. They're still bringing knives and guns into the subway system, just not in their bags. You are absolutely correct, Mike.
And as far as the jump in the turnstiles, okay, that's almost like the Lucy's. Okay.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
And you know what? So she's going to shove 800 more police officers down in the tunnels. What about the streets?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens if she does catch somebody jumping the turnstiles? They're going to get an appearance ticket.
Yes.
Okay. So this is just the start off. This is the condition the people for a police state.
Yes. Absolutely. Let me thank you for the call, Mike. I appreciate it. Let me grab a couple of things you mentioned. The first one is bail reform. Again, I've always said this. I was wrong on how I thought it would be actually implemented. I really believed that our judges would fix it, and I was wrong. They did not. There's a simple way of fixing bail reform, and of course, absolutely making less crime in New York. Focus bail reform on first-time offenders. You made a mistake, you screwed up, you get a shot. You get one chance. Bail reform is focused on first-time offenders. It's literally that simple. That solves the problem. It's one sentence. No one will do it. But I told you last year, 2 years ago, that's how you fix it. 3 years ago, I said it now. That's how you fix it. Bail reform is fixed by just doing that. These people who are committing crimes, Mike is exactly right. Every single one of them, every one is a multiple time offender, a repeat offender. Not 1%, not 99%, 100% of them. The ones you're seeing, all of them are repeat offenders. To Mike's point, they wouldn't be committing crimes because they'd be in jail. Focus bail reform on first-time offenders. If you make an error, you get a shot. You get a chance. There's your chance. Don't screw up. After that, in the jail you go. These are people who've had 3, 4, 5 different. The guy who killed the cop had like 4 different charges already before. The people who stabbed the guy, 4 or 5 different charges already. Arrested 4 or 5 times. Out on bail. Mike is correct. That is a common problem. You can fix this by just making bail reform, focus it on first-time offenders. You do that, you have actually fixed the problem. And it sounds dumb, but you have. It is that simple. And again, I brought this up literally years ago. I'm hoping that finally Kathy Hochul will see all the things she's talking about were wrong. The things that I gave her, that I gave Cuomo back in the day, they were right. And not only that, I put them on my website and begged you to take them. Take these things. Do you guys think I want to run for office? Running for office is brutal. I don't want to do that. I get yelled at, screamed at, punished. I can't work. I go into debt. When I left 2018, that race, I was 6 figures in debt. I tell people that publicly. I didn't work for a year and a half. I live in New York City, a wife and 2 kids. I didn't work for a year. What do you think my finances look like? That's what I did. Do you want to do that? No. Take my ideas, fix my city, fix my state. I'll walk away. You win. I'll do radio shows and stuff for the rest of my life. I'm done. I don't want to run again. But sadly, no one will fix this. Even though I give them the answers, they won't do it. And again and again and again, I'm right. And again and again and again, they ignore me. And we keep doing the same thing over and over again. It does drive me crazy. Anyway, let me grab a couple, if I could, some comments. I do appreciate this. Let's see. Candace says, it's almost like we can't rely on the government for anything but BS. What we can guarantee is they will always try to grift our money. That is a guarantee. They will always do that. Ed says, it would have been better to make a drawbridge. Well, the point is, why is the government deciding that? The government constantly makes mistakes. If you actually have to build a bridge and shipping has to go through it, aren't they going to be like, wait a minute, shipping has to go through this. Let's find a way to make this work. Is it a drawbridge? Should it be taller? Should it be shorter? Should we change how the shipping happens? Whatever. They would find it. How do I know that? Because somehow private organizations ship billions of tons of things across the ocean every year. Somehow. They figured it out. That libertarian lady says, I was right. Larry Sharpe, that should be in a t-shirt. And Joe says Larry Sharpe was right on a t-shirt. You're right. That's my new one. I got to make that. That is my new t-shirt. Absolutely. Yes. Gene says the Fern Hollow Bridge collapsed in Pittsburgh because the tax money that was collected to repair it was diverted to state police. Gene, thank you so much for that. That's brilliant. That is exactly what I'm talking about. And what was the response? I'm sure nothing. I'm sure no one got fired. I'm sure nothing, but they just gave it more money. They started more bonds or whatever. The grift kept going. The grift just kept going. Ed says, if the bridge was built by the Pokemon company, I don't mind if it's called the Pika Bridge or the Charizard Bridge. I think that'd be amazing. Imagine the Pikachu Bridge. I'm good with that. Keith, could you handle Pikachu, not Google? It's the Pikachu Bridge. That's not bad. That's kind of cute. Pika Pika crossing the bridge. And best part, if they're paying for the maintenance, there is no need for tolls. And the money goes directly to the MTA to fix the MTA so we have a decent MTA and can lower prices. In every case, the working class are helped. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls and more of your chat. I do see you. I will get to you after the break.
Introducing a sobering and unavoidable truth. The
We have
latest
Roger.
advancements in artificial intelligence have made cyber attacks
Yeah, the
easier
other
than ever before.
train
Cyber
accident
criminals are
was back in
relentlessly
'93. As you see, it was in
targeting your
Alabama.
business
I sent you a
right
link
now,
to
seeking
it.
the tiniest opening in your defenses
Yeah, and
to
I
drain
remember
your
seeing
accounts and steal
a
sensitive
documentary
data.
on
Your
TV about it where
finances and your customers'
pretty
trust
much,
are on the line.
if I remember right,
Call
the
experts at
barge
Simple Tech
was on the
Innovations
wrong
now
part
at
of the canal that it shouldn't have been on.
585-999-TECH
And by the
to
time he
secure your
radioed in, he
business
thought he
today.
hit something. He
Don't
didn't even
wait
know what
until
he
it's
hit.
too late. Make the call
There was
today.
no stopping the train, apparently.
585-999-TECH.
While many local collision and repair shops have been gobbled up by national chains,
Well, I think
with
the
their
word had
in-person
not
touch,
even gotten
Flower
to
City
the
Collision
engineer. And what
remains locally
happened
owned
is
and operated. The
he
shop was
went
started by a
under the
local
bridge, but
veteran
apparently
who
hit
taught
a
his
bridge
son Zach
abutment,
basics
and then
of
the
customer
train
service
tracks
and providing
weren't
customers
lined up,
value.
and the
If
train
Flower City
derailed
doesn't
and
work
went off.
with a specific insurance company,
Yeah,
they're
if
not
you
your
read
advocate.
that story,
If you need
it's
a repair,
rather
reach out
interesting.
to Zach at Flower City Collision in Henrietta. He will work with your national insurance company on your local behalf to ensure you get the repair you need done right.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop here for your hunting needs. With changes in New York State laws, they'll work with you to fulfill your needs. Open from 10 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday, Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to Tompkins Community Bank.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten Free Bakery in Avon.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Yes, it is Larry Sharpe. Sharpe Way Radio, WYSL Rochester, New York. So happy you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. there is a lot of back and forth about this bridge. And I get it. A lot of back and forth about the crime, the MTA. And I think I'll make Keith happy. I will bring up the other piece that's here too, which I brought up a while ago, which is squatters. So squatters are a problem too. But before I get there, let me grab a call if I could. I'm going to grab Roger. How are you, sir? Did I get Roger?
No, something screwed up.
Oh, okay. No Roger. There we go. So look, I will go back to this squatter piece, if I could. I think I have an echo.
We have Roger now.
Oh, we have Roger now. Awesome. Roger, how are you, sir?
Good. All right, so I'm going to run through this real quick. Larry, you did a bait and switch. You were supposed to mention Kathy waiving all licensing fees for weed as today's subject. Then you started talking about bridges, but that's okay. When these bridges
The
fall,
bridge
no one in
collapsed
the
yesterday. Come on now, Roger. Why are you mad at me?
Okay, all right, check it out. When these bridges fall, no one in the government is ever held accountable. True. But when has private companies ever been held accountable? You have to go all the way back to Valdez, which was eons ago. Private equity and shareholders, no one goes to prison. Making an argument as to why we should privatize our infrastructure is not an argument to embrace. Shareholder and private equity interests serve themselves, not us. No one will ever be held accountable for what happened in East Palestine, Ohio, where it was privatized, and they are doing nothing to clean that mess up, provide lifelong health care for them and their descendants, and to fix that infrastructure. These big shareholder-owned corporations are never held accountable. As far as the regulations are concerned, we have a revolving door between regulators and the industry that they're supposed to regulate. So you have to question how effective those regulations are. Infrastructure is the primary purpose of what a public bank is for, which all the more reason why we need more direct democracy at state and local level, and eventually the national level through citizen ballot initiative amendment laws and repeal of laws. You think you got the answer. I know I got the answer, but the only way it's going to be settled is if we put it on the ballot. Last thing, also, not caring if people die because they vote for a party you disagree with is precisely why we need to abolish all political parties. You see the type of thinking that breeds, Larry, where you will place a political party over your fellow man. A bridge between Ohio and Kentucky collapsed years ago. I never thought they should die because they vote GOP. We are all victims of these parties. You see how it turns us against each other and why I'm so intent on getting rid of them.
All right, so let me grab a couple things. The first piece, yes, you're right. Most companies don't get punished, and the reason is the EPA. The EPA is the government agency that is supposed to regulate and protect us. It does not. It protects companies. That's what the EPA does. Your point about a revolving door, 100% correct. The EPA is not helping us. It is literally protecting companies because it creates a super fund. A super fund is supposed to be that people put money into it, companies put money into it, and it pays for the cleanup. The super fund's been empty for years. That's why there's no cleanups, because the companies are protected by the EPA and there's no money in the super fund, so nothing gets done. You are correct. My point is, you solve this through contract. The government's not required. You simply say, if you do X, then you must pay. There's a simple way of fixing East Palestine. I said it before earlier. You simply say, you don't have to have harsh regulations. What you have to have, if you want to drive that train in my area, you must have insurance that will cover everything, period. You are responsible, and because it's environmental, it should pierce the corporate veil. What I mean by that, that means that if it's environmental and it affects millions or hundreds of thousands of people, whatever the case may be, which it does, thousands, then you are not protected by your corporation. That means now the individuals who made the decisions can be punished personally. You do that, you don't require an EPA, because now these guys individually are concerned. Insurance companies now have to cover everything. They will create regulations. How do I know that? You see that in every industry that is not heavily regulated by government that's focused upon insurance. Insurance creates regulations that they have to follow to be insured. It happens on its own. people are responsible. So I'm agreeing with you. I just think the way we get there is not through more government. The way we get there is via contract and insurance. You can't make it work, and there are examples of that working. I'll go now to your weed piece. You are correct, and this is the part also I was right, and I appreciate this. Kathy Hochul has finally figured out that her Office of Cannabis Management does not work. The licensing does not work. Let people sell weed to whom they want to sell. Let people who want to buy weed from who they want to buy it from. That is how it's been working for decades. No deaths, and how it should still work. Kathy Hochul will figure that out at least. If she would just regulate it like onions, like I said, we'd be okay. I want to say thank you so much for your call. That was great, Roger. We have another call? Are you there?
Hey, Larry.
George.
Hey,
yeah,
George,
sorry about
how
the
are you?
connection. Yeah, Arizona has been dealing with the problem with the aliens. Has come up with it did a bill, and they basically passed a thing that anyone's on your premises illegally, you could have removed, or if you felt they were in danger to you. Not that I want to shoot anybody, but that's what they did, and they took it. That stuff just doesn't work out there. It's something to think about when you go for your next show and you're talking about the illegal immigration type thing, and the fact that they're stealing your property.
Yes, this goes to the squatters piece, which I'll bring up now. The idea that someone can come into your property and then stay there and you can't remove them is an embarrassment. Now, I want to be clear. I understand the concept of if I made a deal with you, meaning you agreed to rent me your apartment or something, and you've got to give me some time in case you want to throw me out. That makes total sense. I'm actually not against laws like that. I'd say you can't just throw me out tomorrow. I'm okay with that. This is a livelihood. But the case, to your point, George, is that in this case, we had an actual agreement. Like you said, I could be on your property. Now we're deciding when I have to leave. Totally different issue. If I just decide to come on your property, you should be able to remove me. I'm agreeing with you. I shouldn't be shooting people. That's unnecessary. If I shoo you away and you go away, that's enough. I completely agree. The idea is private property is treated as if it isn't important. And when you do that, people don't have ownership. If people don't have ownership, they don't have responsibility. And that goes right back to my initial opening. Responsibility versus blame. If I don't own anything, I have no responsibility. All I do is blame. And that woman, I forgot her name. You'll remember her. She was very popular in the BLM riots. They were mad at her saying, how can you burn down your own neighborhood? And she yelled right back at them and said, we don't own any of this. So in her mind, there's no ownership. There's no responsibility. There's only blame. So George, I think you're correct. Private property does matter. Not just like the big, wealthy fat cats. The individual person who owns their car, who owns their home. Those people who went into the bay outside of Baltimore, who lost their cars, hopefully they didn't lose their lives, I hope, but they didn't lose their life. They just lost their car. If you're wealthy, you buy another car. You're wealthy. What do you care? You probably have multiple cars. You're wealthy. Maybe 6 or 7 of them. Who cares? You're wealthy. You're not wealthy? That might be the only way your kids get to school. It might be the only way you get to work. Private property matters. I covered a lot today, guys. Thank you so much for taking my rants, and I appreciate you giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.
Hey, have a